All right, and I think we're live. I believe we are live. Let me double check everywhere. Cool. Welcome everybody. It's great to be back. I know that we had our last open source meetup I think it was about a month ago, but before that it was a little bit longer. But it's great to be back. Obviously, there's a lot going on, and we'll wait for people to kind of join, send out a few more messages. But good to see everybody, and great to have Jim on the first open source meetup. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Sweet. Hey, Ellie. I see Ellie in the YouTube chat. Let's see here. Nice. I also see David. Hello, everybody. And Chevet, are you able to just send out an announcement?
Yeah, I was just doing that.
Oh, perfect. We're on the same brainwave.
Literally, as you said that, the notification in Discord just popped up.
That's so funny. Perfect.
I think having conducted this for 12 times, we sync very well.
Yes. Yeah. It's always like, hey, Chevet, can you make it? Oh, never mind. It was just posted. It's very in sync. But awesome. Well, yeah, we'll kind of let people keep flowing in. But of course, it's great to be back. My name is Mason. For those of you who haven't been on a previous open source meetup or live stream, and I do a lot of live streams. I do a lot of open source, a lot of community for pieces as well. So it's great to be here. But yeah, I think that if we want to kind of just start off, obviously we have a big event going on right now. We have the Major League Hacking MLH Global Hack Week, which is a kind of hackathon online. And let me see if I can bring up a link here. I'll send this in the chats. Right there. Perfect. So yeah, it's super cool. We got to sponsor this event. So we had a session yesterday, which Jim gave, a little workshop, which was really fun and really, really engaging. I thought a lot of people got a lot of value out of it. And then Chevet actually just got done with his more developer, kind of building focused workshop, where he showed off some of our SDKs, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But yeah, how was that, Jim? How was that, Chevet? What do you think overall?
Yeah, it was good. It's been, I love MLH events. I've been involved in MLH events for years, in person and remote. And it went really well. I just dropped a link in the chat actually to the session I gave. Chevet, I don't know whether yours is up there yet. But that's just kind of great watching students taking on board the kind of things we're sharing with them and just getting excited about how they can leverage this for their own studies, their own projects.
Nice. Yeah,
Chevet's one. Thank you.
Yeah, I think as Jim mentioned that earlier for me, I've always been involved with MLets on the student side back till 2021. But it's the first time now that we're collaborating with MLets more on a partnership side, and now we are seeing the sessions that we are and the challenges that we are giving out to the students. So I think it's a full life circle moment for me, from being involved as an active student, pretty much participating in every single student hackathon that was conducted by MLets, to now partnering with MLets. So you see that I feel very old now. But it's good. We have seen a lot of folks coming into our server, and I think for those folks who are still kind of figuring their way out while using pieces or trying to figure out how to solve the challenges, I think both these workshops are a great way for you to get started using not only pieces as a tool, but also for developing your application. So I think like now, since we have both the workshops out of the box, or out in the waters, I think now people can truly understand the great value that pieces has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to add anything there, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I was sort of jump onto a comment actually. This is the chat from Balam G. I too am still figuring out how Pieces works. Just a spoiler alert: I've been with Pieces 3 months, and I'm still figuring out how Pieces works. So, every time I think I've got it, I find a new feature that I don't know. But no, I mean, it was a great workshop that I gave yesterday, going through all the ways Pieces can help you as a student. Because as a student, there's so much you're trying to do. You've got obviously a degree to do. You've got to pass your degree, but there's be the highly competitive. You've got to try and get a job as well. You're not just competing against your lecturers and assessors to try and get the best quality degree you can get. You are preparing for that world of work. You need to think about your internships. You need to think about the jobs that you're going to get, where you are literally competing with your peers, and anything you can do to get that level up is needed. Whether it's using a tool like Pieces to help you as you're in lectures, save code snippets to help you dive into concepts that you don't know, to help you with lead code problems, or whether it is getting involved in hackathons like MLH, so that on your resume you can say, yes, here's some example projects I've built, so that when you come to apply for these internships, you apply for jobs, you're not just a person with degree, you're a person with degree plus all these projects of experience that you can then show, this big portfolio that you're building. So, that's why I'm a huge MLH fan. It's just watching the opportunities this gives to any student who wants to get involved, to help them build up their portfolio, to help them kind of work in public, to help them just get in a great place to support that application for internships, that application for a job afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's super useful. I mean, I was recently obviously a student, but I think just even when I was there weren't that many events that I was really engaged in, and I would have loved having something like this be kind of more frequent around the university that I was at, to be able to meet other people that are have similar interests to me, that actually want to build stuff outside of school, which is I am a big advocate for doing side projects and things like that, learning on your own. But the other sense is like, yeah, you're just going to learn so much while you're making those friends. So I love events like this, and hopefully we get to continue sponsoring amazing ones. But
I kind of wish I had this when I was at uni, but I mean, I graduated in '99 before. Yes, Mason, probably that was before you were born, probably before Chauvet was born, and most people at MLH before they were born. We didn't have things like GitHub.
Yeah, I was 1 year old.
Yeah, we didn't have these hackathons. We couldn't get involved in these events because the tools and the platforms just weren't there. So, every time I go to a student hackathon, I am so jealous. I wish I'd had those kind of opportunities.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I also wanted to hit on, I know we may have hit it last month a little bit, because we had an open source meetup right after a big event, but we had our our product hunt launch last month, which is on July 10th. That feels like an eternity ago, to be honest, but it was just a month ago. We've been doing a lot since, but no, it was a great product hunt launch. We got product of the day. We released our new Copilot Plus, which has that live context feature. If you're familiar with that, if you're not, it's an amazing feature. I would highly recommend. We have videos on our YouTube about it, and then just trying it out for yourself. But yeah, that was a great product hunt launch. We were able to really get the value that we were trying to get out, which was great. But going forward, I mean, we've hit conferences now. We're in our conference spree. And so we hit that conference, which was in Wisconsin, Dells, Wisconsin. That was really fun. No pun intended. And we were able to meet some really amazing people. And I know we're going to shout out a few of our contributors, but a couple of them we actually met at that conference. and they're already contributing to some of our open source projects like our docs, which is really cool. And I love the kind of activity that's been going on there. Yeah, Product Hunt launch was really great, and we hope to. We usually do them every like 6 months or so. I would expect, another one within 6 to 9 months, which would be it'll be really fun to see where Pieces is when that comes around. Another major update, I saw Ellie mentioned that, I'll bring it up on the screen here. You vote for making a C# SDK so she can do some cool stuff. This could be closer than we think. So recently, our Open API spec files are now open sourced. So I can share a link with everyone in the chat. And essentially, like, technically, you could go and pull it down and generate your own SDKs. We can still generate them for you, but this kind of gives you the ability to, one, be able to see all of our endpoints and all of our models, but two, also be able to contribute to those. If you don't like a description or you find typos there, not only can you do it on our docs, but now you can do it at the source, which is super cool. And then, of course, now you can generate your own SDKs. So I'd be really interested to see what that would look like, Ellie. Maybe you can try that out and be the first person to try it out for us. So.
And as far as I know, I think I was telling this to Ellie that when we had the Visual Studio extension being built, I think we did internally create an SDK for C#. I'm not 100% sure if we are still actively using it, but we had discussed that, and I think there was a version of that got pulled up, but we never created a dedicated GitHub repository, just internally used.
That could be true. I know we've generated a few different ones. More recently, we generated Lua. We've generated Rust for some people. But yeah, I don't know if we actually even have like a repo for it. It may have just been a zip that we shared out. But yeah,
it is a private repo. Okay. I know this because I've been playing with it to try and look at knocking up a C# Copilot SDK, because my background is in C#. So yeah, I guess, Ellie, maybe this is something we can kind of collaborate on, is creating a wrapper SDK around the main Pieces OS client, and then we can create a Copilot SDK that kind of streamlines the SDK process. Seem to be getting a few comments that they love this. Obviously, Ellie Scamp says this is cool. Michelle says it's cool as well, and Sambav as well says cool. So looks like some big cool. Big C# love coming from folks.
Yeah,
kind of interesting actually, because when we were at that conference, a lot of people we spoke to were C# developers.
Yeah,
it's not the cool thing that the startups are using, and startups are all let's use this cool whatever. But there's so many people using C#. The ecosystem is phenomenal. So yeah. Ellie, let's do this. Let's make a C# SDK.
Yeah, that'd be super cool, and then we can add that to our main kind of support. Speaking of SDKs, that's the third item on our docket here today. Yes, so we have. I guess it's probably just good to give a breakdown on kind of where they stand and why we're doing what we're doing. So we have these SDKs that are called Pieces OS Client SDKs, and these are the SDKs that are a one-to-one representation of our Open API spec file. However, these are great because they give you every single, all the functionality that you would need to build a product, like our desktop app. You can build really, really complicated and complex problems or products with that. However, it is not super easy to use. The developer experience around it is not great. And on top of that, the docs are just really hard to maintain for that many different endpoints, as well as just keep them updated. So it may have been over a month now. I think I was building some Copilot, and I essentially already built out I had a class where I built out all of these different methods, like ask question, create conversation, just simplified it all. I was like, okay, I'll just make this into a package. And so that's where this kind of Pieces Copilot SDK came from. So now we have a Pieces Copilot, excuse me, we have a Pieces Copilot TypeScript SDK, as well as a Pieces Copilot Python SDK. So these will actually, the names of them, they will be changing. We haven't decided, excuse me, maybe I should get some water. We haven't decided the name yet specifically, but it'll just be more general, and it'll give you a bit more capabilities. Excuse me. Yeah. Jeez. But yes, so it'll essentially unlock more endpoints. Instead of calling it just Copilot, there's a whole nother aspect of Pieces that is material asset management. And so we don't really want to have two kind of wrapper SDKs. So we're going to take this Copilot SDK that is in TypeScript, that is in Python right now, and maybe C# in the future. And we're going to generalize it and have tons of functionality, have the WebSocket streams built in, and just standardize it a bit more. So it's super, super easy to build really impressive applications with Pieces. So I'm really excited about that. A lot of updates to come, and we'll of course announce everything, because there will be some changes that people will have to make. But we want to get those over with very early on, just so it affects the least amount of people.
I don't know, Jim, that you managed to get like the live context working. I'm personally very interested in how that was done, because when I had a conversation earlier with Mark, he mentioned that there are a few kind of more sticky points to it. That is why we didn't necessarily had any documentation on how to implement it. But perhaps, that's also an upcoming feature where you'll be able to use the live context feature right out of the box from the SDKs, which are only supported right now as part of our desktop and all of the different products that are there for our extensions.
Yeah, now we've got the WebSocket stuff implemented. It's actually quite easy to get live context working. It's just a few small tweaks to the pipelines that we send. I guess it's going back to Mason, to your comment about what we've built is the API we have at the moment is very complex. It needs to be this complex for us to build the power that we have across the different components. We built this for us to leverage what we need, rather than building it for an end user to work with it. So it seems like it does look very complex to add live context to it, but actually it makes sense if you understand the design decisions behind how the API works from the perspective of the products that we have built internally. So yeah, Chauvet wants I still think there's like multiple repos where people are working on different parts of it, and when we've got that finalized, I can then go through and add the temporal grounding and the live context pipeline. It's literally gonna be like a 2-line change.
Yeah, I think it is. Is it just that pipeline when you pass it in? There's like a generalized code, contextualized code, and then workstream pattern engine. So
there's that. There's the pipeline you have to change. It's a different type of pipeline. It's not the generic pipeline. It's the live context. It's got a different name, but it's another pipeline. And then you have to pass in a temporal setting. So that defines the time. You think about the live context as temporal grounding. What was I just doing? And so in there, you specify a time range for how far back to look. So, do I look back 15 minutes, 60 minutes, what have you? So you can specify that in the temporal, and literally that's it. That's the only change you have to make, and then the magic just happens on the Pieces OS side.
Nice. Yeah, I'm super excited for that. And there one day there will be a very, very, it'll just be greatly, very nicely documented, very easy to get up and running with Pieces. Simply download Pieces OS and you can build really, really amazing streams. Amazing products. My brain is all over the streams today. But yeah, I see Henry is in the chat. We were just talking. We talked about our product hunt launch, which was last month, really well. And then I don't know if you'll be able to scroll back, Henry, but we had a few links that we shared around that, as well as we've open sourced our open API spec files. And so if you want, you can go and generate any SDK in any language, or you can generate our SDK in any language, which is really cool. I don't know if it actually would work. We'd still need to try it out, just how it is, the open source ones, but it should work. And then you can build anything you want. So, and then that kind of led us into these new SDKs that we're building, kind of standardizing the really complex nature of Pieces OS into a really easily digestible SDK for people to build on top of. So that's kind of the next, I would say, 2 weeks. We'll get that to a really good spot. We already have a to-do list, which I can bring up here. I think it's on the Python one. Let's see. Yes. No. Hold on. Let me bring this up. Perfect. Yes. Nice. So yeah, here is I'm going to share this in the link in the chat. So this is essentially all of the functionality that we plan to add right away. Obviously, there's still some additional functionality that we need to add, but this is the Python SDK, and we're going to get all of that in, and it's going to be a really, really useful tool. Just with this, it already is, but with this new functionality, it's going to be really amazing. And I see James Ward in the chat. First time here, just completed a coding boot camp. Can't wait to land my official role, begin real development. Super exciting. Congratulations. First boot camp. Yeah, absolutely. And I wish you luck on that first official role. It's always fun getting into it, and you'll learn a lot really fast. I can assure you that.
Can you, James? How about you? If you're up for this, how about you share your LinkedIn in the chat? I'm guessing by the fact you got the open to work, that looks like they're very much linked in open to work.
Yeah.
How about you drop the LinkedIn in the chat, and then everyone here, if you can share James's LinkedIn, if you've got a post on there saying you're looking for work, if you can share that, let's see if we can help James get their first job.
Yeah,
let's do this.
That's awesome.
And, yeah, which bootcamp was it? I'm interested to know which, because there's some great bootcamps out there. So yeah, jump in the chat with which bootcamp it was as well, please.
Nice. And looks like Vishal is curious how RAG works when we select an entire project as context, how it's implemented, and what are future enhancements. So when you think of RAG, right, there's two aspects of it. There's the and James said it was Code Up in Dallas, Texas, Jim.
Cool.
So okay. I haven't heard of that one, but yeah,
not heard of that
got some Texas people in the chat.
So James, I'm guessing we can't, if you tried to post your LinkedIn, it may not have popped up because we probably blocked links being posted by people. So if you're okay with this, I'll try and find you on LinkedIn and I'll drop in the chat for everyone.
Cool. Yep, but essentially RAG, there's two aspects of it. So obviously there's the context that you want to add, whether that's files or folders. There's also a vector database. So it's essentially a database that's really specifically designed for vectors, which are just an array of numbers at the end of the day. And so it is able to take files of code, break them down into different chunks, and store that code. It goes through an algorithm which vectorizes it, and then it stores it as vectors in this database. So when the RAG implementation comes in, so retrieval augmented generation. So let's say I ask a question about, how do I build a Python, a simple Python HTTP server? When I ask that question, it's going to vectorize that. It's going to vectorize parts of that question and say, and ask to the database, which has those files that you've added, what here is similar to what was just asked. It's going to pull the similar items and use that in the prompt as well. And so it'll send that off to whatever LLM you're using, bring it back. And then that's how you kind of have that contextual grounding without sending, an entire code repo, which, probably more than half of the files there are not necessarily related to what you ask all the time. That's how it's able to, keep that context window down. So future roadmaps or future enhancements, obviously we're always trying to improve it. And there's always different ways that you can go about essentially passing that context into the prompt. So, I mean, a very simple way is obviously you take that, you say, give me the files that are related to this question, and then you just paste that in with the question there. But there's also a ton of prompt engineering that you could do behind the scenes where you could send it as 2 separate messages, have them relate in the actual LLM. So there's tons of work going on our end just to make sure that, obviously while you're asking questions in a conversation, we're able to track everything. And it's a hard problem, but we're always trying to improve that. So hopefully that helps.
And I think one aspect to this is the temporal grounding. That one thing is that you have put in a set of files that you have put into a vector database, and now you are leveraging that fixed set of files and asking questions, and that'll work great. But for example, how the pieces live context is working is that we are continuously adding whatever information that we're able to retrieve from your current workspace into our quadrant database that runs, which is a vector database that runs locally in your system. And it is continuously updating that or enriching that vector database so that it is all not only giving you content relevant, which is context to whatever kind of question you're asking, but it's continuously getting updated. So it's like a living vector database and not just like a static one, which you initially just preloaded your information with. So I think like that's the next level of context setting, or like a live RAG that we have implemented with the live context.
Yeah, I like that living kind of database, living context, which is live context, where we got that from. So love to learn and contribute. Well, yeah, I mean, we're going to do a lot around our SDKs. We're actually opening up the endpoints, I believe, so that you can now interact with our quadrant database locally. I mean, your quadrant database, but the one that we serve with pieces. And so you'll be able to interact with it and do your own RAG. I don't know when that is supposed to be, fully production and pushed out, but there will absolutely be ways that you can contribute, building a bit more functionality on the wrapper SDK side for that as well. Could be a really cool contribution.
Now, I don't know whether I just woke up too early this morning, my brain's not firing, but I first read this comment as I am doing D&D on RAG. I can just imagine you build a RAG algorithm that rolls a die, randomly rolls a die 20 and works out whether you get the answer you want or a monster appears.
Yeah, that'd be a way to get you going.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely, Vishal. And of course, you're in the Discord, so just let us know and how we can collaborate. But yeah, so let's keep this moving here. So we talked about the SDKs, lots of big updates coming to that. It's kind of directly relates to our new docs, new doc updates. And so we do have essentially a background is right now, a lot of our docs are feature first, meaning if you go to our doc site, you're going to see a lot of features before you see products. So we want to kind of flip that on its head, where let's say I'm in VS Code and I'm in our VS Code extension and I want to know how to do a feature in VS Code. I really don't care about the feature in Obsidian or JetBrains. So I just want to go to our docs. The vector DB is actually quadrant. It's spelled QDRANT. Yep. Yes. But so yeah, product first docs, we have the first couple of those released. So our new Raycast extension, which is really cool, y'all should check that out, which is also going to be open sourced very soon. If it isn't already, it may already be.
It's already open sourced. So
okay.
Basically, the community extensions for Raycast, all of them are open sourced.
Yeah.
So that's already.
Yeah, I don't know if our actual repo is open source though. Is it?
Yeah, but the entire implementation is already. So I guess if you can probably pull up the link to that community extension.
So our actual like repo though is not open source yet. It's not public, but it will be. Since it's already open source on their site, it doesn't really make sense for us to keep it internal. So we'll make sure that gets updated in public, and then on the docs as well, we'll have the contribution link and everything. But CLI and Raycast, like I was saying, are product first. you'll see that they look a little bit different from all of our other docs right now. So we're just testing out a few different ways of structuring those. And so a lot of feedback coming, but I think we're fairly happy with how they kind of look right now. Getting some new graphics and final polishes on those. But yeah, we're super excited. I think it'll help a lot of kind of declutter our docs and allow people to easily access the information that they need, which is the whole point of our documentation site. So of course, our docs are also open source. So we've had a ton of contributions recently to our docs. So if you see a typo, or maybe you're using a product and one of our features isn't documented, and you can either tell us and we'll definitely document it, or you can do it yourself. You can get in there, you can create an issue and fork our repo so that you can go and build it, and then you can be a contributor on the doc. So we're always open to working with people on that, and super excited about going forward. So that's great, docs. And I guess, yeah, I didn't mention when I was talking to Henry, but we also obviously are doing this Global Hack Week right now. If you are I think it's primarily for students, is that correct? But I think anyone can join, but primarily for students. So yeah, we can post a link. Obviously, there's a link in our Discord if you go to the event, our events, and it's happening now. So you can click that link there and be directed over. There's some great people doing some really great workshops and talks. And I believe it goes through Wednesday, if I'm not incorrect. Let me double check here. It goes through Thursday. Sorry. So it's from, I believe it started Friday yesterday, and then it is going to go through Thursday. So we'll be around, we'll be talking with people in the Discord like always, but if you're interested, I would highly recommend go checking that out. Super great people, and you're going to learn a lot from being there. Cool. Moving on, our Sublime plugin is now available on the official package manager. So before, I think we had kind of a workaround way of installing it, but for those of you who do use our Sublime plugin, it's now officially kind of on their package manager, finally. So we're super excited about that. And that kind of goes hand in hand with our new NeoVim plugin that is going to be open sourced. We're super excited about that. Bishoy, who is not on here, but he does a lot of our open source. I guess they're like internal open source projects, you could call them. But I highly recommend go checking that out. That will be, if it is not already, we just need to update the docs, but that's open source as well. So we have a repo, you can help contribute to that if you're a NeoVim or Sublime. But NeoVim, it's looking great. I'm super excited. I think the community will absolutely love this. And it honestly looks really, really good. So I'm excited to get that out to people. Cool. Anything from Jim, Chavez? Anything on your mind?
No, I think that's good.
Cool.
No, I'm just excited by all these plugins. I know there's some other ones coming that we can't talk about that is quite exciting. So it's just really cool that we're kind of getting this ecosystem of pieces everywhere. Regardless of what tool you use, pieces can be there with you.
Yep. And I was even thinking, like, on the docs homepage, it's starting to get too much to kind of have to scroll down all the way through the plugins. And I think that's it's a great problem to have, that we need to rework how we actually structure our plugins so you can find what you need. So we'll probably add a search bar to that homepage and categorize them a bit better so you can find everything. But yes, we love Obsidian. Obsidian was actually one of the first. It was the first open source repo. Yeah, I believe so. So we released that over a year ago now, and it's been great. Obsidian community is obviously always great, and that was actually one of the first projects that I worked on when I joined here. Fun fact. So super, super awesome. But speaking of Xcode and Zed, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out, Henry. We'll see. And
a lot of people ask for Xcode, don't they?
That's right.
People ask that one.
That's right. A lot of people. Speaking of even more plugins, we have one more, Raycast. So if anyone uses Raycast, I would highly recommend. Yeah, it is Obsidian on steroids. But no, Raycast highly recommends you download our brand new plugin. It just got approved, and we have docs, so you can just go to their store and search pieces for Raycast and download it. It's not featured, on feature parity with everything else yet, but there's some great features in there already that obviously bring pieces wherever you are, which is the big goal of all these integrations that we have. So yeah, let's see what's up next. Right, Shive, do you want to kind of hit on this last one, and then Jim can hit on just a little bit of that conference?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Let me
Oh yeah.
talk about this. So of course we are now really kind of extending this open invitation for student communities to come and interact with us. This Emulate hackathon experience for us was to get a lot of the student developers get involved with pieces and also understand the value that pieces has to offer for students. Because of course, whether you're preparing for an exam or whether you are just using pieces as a tool to be able to summarize your lecture notes or help you understand more complex topics, which you might be a bit scared to ask your professors. I think it's a great way for you to be able to use it as your side hustle, or sorry, as your sidekick, to make yourself better. And I think we'll probably share Jim's workshop on the same again. But of course, we are not just limiting it to this workshop, but we are openly looking to collaborate with student developer communities. So whether you run a student developer community at your school, whether it's high school or in college, we'll be more than happy to collaborate with you and of course share resources with you so that you can then become an advocate for us to of course put out the word and how pieces as a tool for students is really useful. And we are also going to be conducting a Twitter space where we'll touch upon the benefits of using pieces for students. We also have a blog post actually coming up, which is written by one of the student interns, Garrett, who just, he'll be moving into his second year of university. So all those resources are coming up very shortly. So stay tuned if you're a student, if you're actively working in student developer communities. There's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Jim, probably if you want to add something to it.
I guess not much to add. There is exciting things coming up. We are working with a number of student community groups anyway to kind of spread the word and see whether we can kind of grow a student community. So yeah, if you are, as Shive said, if you're active in your student communities, if you're the kind of person who doesn't just go to an event but organizes an event, if you're the kind of folks who run a computer science society, jump on the Discord, get in touch, or if you know someone like that, again, get in touch. We would love to kind of work with you, collaborate with you, and support you in the events that you run. We know obviously how important it is for students when they're running these events to get support. So if you want one of us to come and jump on a live stream with you, we can do that. If there's other kind of ways we can support you, we can do that. So please get in touch. Absolutely adore working with students' communities. It's such a great thing. Just watching what people build, being inspired by everyone's enthusiasm. So yeah, we just want to connect with as many folks as possible. And yes, Sambhav, to your question, a lot of people do ask, is this real? And yes, this is real. This is a small selection of my Lego.
I've never seen, I don't know if they're real. I've never seen them move.
What, you mean like this
there
one
you
here,
go.
for example?
There you go.
Yeah.
It's proven. It's not a green screen. It's not a cardboard.
It's not a green screen.
It's all real.
Yeah, I've got more Lego the other side. I've got boxes of Lego that I've yet to build because they released some new Star Wars Lego last week. So I'm slowly working through building that. This will get rearranged soon. I need to put another shelf up, and then the Razor Crest is going to move, and an AT-AT's going to go there.
Nice.
So yes, if you actually caught my stream yesterday, my desk was in standing mode, so you actually got two more shelves above with different Lego on it. So,
nice. Are those lights? Yes. Is that connected to a battery or power there on the X-Wing?
It's all connected to power, so I can kind of If I press this button here, it'll go off. I've got a Stream Deck on my desk, so I can turn that all off.
Nice.
And then I can change the lights. I've only got 2 settings on my Stream Deck, which is blue, and then this kind of color change that goes from pink to purple. So I need to get, if I only got a small Stream Deck, I've only got a 6-button Stream Deck, I need to get a bigger one, and then I can have more color controls on there as well. But yeah, usually every year at Christmas, Santa brings me more lights for different models. So I'm slowly building up my collection of Lego lights.
Nice. It looks like Henry actually started a new company last week and generated some backgrounds for teams. So
nice.
Congrats on the new start, Henry. Super excited about that. Cool. Looks like we have a new person in the live stream, Shive.
Yeah, so as we'll move into the community contributions, which I'm super proud that we have grown so far, that we have folks not only, of course, contributing to the open source projects and to the SDKs, but also just randomly building a VS Code extension. So we'll discuss all of that. But probably, Jim, before we move into the community contributions, if you wanted to give a quick recap of the DAT conference and what are some of the upcoming open source collaborations that we might be looking at.
Yeah, I mean, so it's that conference, as Mason mentioned, was in Wisconsin Dells, Wisconsin. Great event. Ellie was there, and Richard has just jumped in the chat, was also there. Great to meet you in person. But that was a really great event. We had a couple of sessions. Shive did a workshop on Kubernetes. And we're just hanging out, meeting with people, doing a whole load of podcast episodes, live streams. The 3 of us all did battle decks, which if you've not heard of that before, it's when you have to do a 5-minute presentation and you don't get to see the slides beforehand. So you just get random slides thrown up and they're changing slides randomly. We all had to do that. And we all got outclassed by a very confident 12-year-old.
Yeah, there was no competition.
No competition.
We got blown out of the water there.
Yeah. But that was a great event. It's a lot of good conversations with people who are very interested in what we can do with pieces. There was other IDEs and IDE extension companies. They were kind of, oh, I think there's something we can do with this. More news, hopefully, coming soon on that. And there's a lot of folks very interested in collaborating. So it's not just about what we can build with open source, but how we can use pieces to help people be successful with other products as well. The fact that pieces is such a generic tool for everyone. It's not, it's solving a problem we all have as developers. There was a lot of companies that, we could interact with this. So, keep an eye out for potentially some new AI models that we can potentially make available. There are companies who have open source models, so there's going to be some opportunities coming there. Obviously, as mentioned, there's potential new plugins coming as well. So don't want to give too much away, but there was definitely a strong interest from folks in the ability to build applications against Pieces OS. So that conference kind of on our first big semi-international conference, as it were. We'll be back at NDC Copenhagen. I think it's called Copenhagen Developers Fest this year. So that's going to be coming end of this month, I think it is. We're also going to be at All Things Open, Midwest Con, and I think a few others, and we're kind of looking at what our conference schedule is going to be for next year. So, keep an eye out on our socials for where we're going to be in the world if you want to come and meet us, hang out, and share your stories.
Sweet. Great. Do we want to dive into these community shout outs here?
Yes, absolutely. So of course, I'm always a big bully when it comes to seeing so many community contributions. I think that's how most of us kind of start our journeys into developer communities. And when we are able to make a compelling contribution, that's how Bishoy, we spoke about Bishoy. He just came in and completely just amazed us with his contributions that he made to the CLI project. And now he is a proud owner of not only 1 but 2 plugins, and the speed at which he ships features for all of these, it's just mind blowing. So I
Yeah.
think since we are starting off with the CLI agent, of course, for those folks who are new to the CLI agent, it is the way for you to be able to interact with pieces through command line. So if you are someone who does not like GUI, well, I'm not one of those people. I love GUI, but if you love to interact only with CLI with command line, then feel free to look at that. But we have been having some amazing contributions from Sambhav, who will probably invite over to the stage as well. Some of you want to probably give your introduction, how you got started using pieces, and probably just talk more about the kind of contributions you have been making. But because I think that especially in the last like 1 month, you would probably be our number one open source contributor.
Yeah,
So
sure.
thanks, a big
Thank you.
thanks for that.
Thank you. So I'll start with my introduction first. I'm Sambhav Dixit. So I'm a contributor from India. I'm currently a final year graduate at IIIT Bhopal. And basically, I'm an AI/ML developer, and I've always been an open source enthusiast. So as for how I came across pieces in particular, this all began around last December. I was watching some Instagram feeds or something like that, and I came across the product on Instagram, and it sounded like a really cool product because the world was going through this entire AI/ML LLM wave, and people were advertising their LLMs, and the idea of having something like this sounded really cool. So I like just went and checked it out, and I had the product. I started working with the product, and I found it really useful in my usual developer workflows. So I was using it for quite some time, but I didn't know back then that it was open source. So I was just using it, and I was loving the product in its entirety, and receiving the updates and stuff. But eventually I came to find out that I was again scrolling through Instagram, and through one of your reels, I believe, I came to find out that the project is actually open source. And then it was all just me trying to dig out the discords, and then I joined the Discord and the community, and the community was just superbly welcoming and stuff. So I believe Shivai was one of the first people I ever interacted with, and I asked him to point me to the right directions, and I believe he pointed me out to the SDKs, and he gave me a brief overview of how the project structure is, what each of the projects in the open source repository does and stuff. And along the way, I discovered some projects myself. I found the extensions quite useful. I was using the VS Code extension myself, so I was quite familiar to that already. But I when I came across the CLI agent, that kind of struck to me, since as Shiva was just saying, there are some people that just they love the CLI, and I'm one of those people that I mean, the plugins are great, but I often feel like without the CLI, it's just the entire developer experience is just not complete. So I felt like I should just give it a go. So one of these days, I just forked the CLI agent project, and I was just exploring it. I'll be very honest. I mentioned this in the Discord as well. I was just giving it a try. I was just tinkering with issues, and I accidentally ended up solving one of those issues while discovering, the project and the entire workflow. So I found that quite amazing, since like I had been with on hands with all hands with the project for like 30 minutes or something like that, and I managed to solve an issue, even though it was just a good first issue. But that gave me an understanding of the core project structure and stuff, that how I'm supposed to operate on the project. So I realized that this might be a project that I would want to possibly contribute to, because the project is just easy to understand, but it's so effective, and it works all around the world and stuff. So I went on to contribute to it, and I believe I solved all three of the good first issues in 24 hours. And that was like, sometimes you just get an adrenaline rush out of solving issues. So that was just amazing.
That's
After
got to be a
that,
new record.
yeah. So after that, I came across the milestones on the project, and I found that there were certain milestones. I believe the project back then was on version 1.3.9, and it had a couple of issues that they were to solve to push it to 1.4.0. And I believe Bishoy is the maintainer of the repository, and he's a great person. Like, he's ever so active, and he responds really quickly, and he's awesomely helpful. So I started working with him, and I started working on the milestones, and then it kind of became just a target to hit the milestones and get the project up and running. And across the way, it went to 1.4.0, and then all the way to 1.5.0. And I believe in 12 days of time, the project was I took the project somewhere from 1.3.9 to 1.5.0. So yeah, that was another, like, it was just, I believe most of the time it was just an adrenaline rush, nothing more. So I was just following the issues just to, you know, feel good, I believe. Yeah, ever since I've been exploring other issues on the CLI agent. I've been trying to basically close and address as many issues on the CLI agent itself, and exploring other projects and the repositories as well. So it's
Yeah, I mean,
been that so long.
given the fact that you are pretty well versed with Python, I would highly recommend you can take a look at the not only the new Vim but the Sublime plugin as well, because both of those also use the Python SDK. So probably some of the other projects that you might want to contribute to. And I mean, that's an open invitation for others. Like, the reason why we are making them open source, why we are building in public, is the fact that we have contributors like you and Bishoy at one point in time, because I was like really bullish about Bishoy joining our team with Mark, our CTO, because I said that no, he has to be on the team, and now he's like doing wonders. So that was such a good, wonderful, kind of story as a highlight to showcase that if you're able to make good, compelling contributions, there are millions of opportunities that open up for you, right? And I think like the way that you're doing it is just the exact way that one should build in public and learn through contributing to open source. So really appreciate all of the insights, Sambhav. And again, like, we are really grateful for all of the open source contributions that you're making. And it's not just that you're doing it silently. I think you actively also post on Twitter, which is like the perfect recipe that you build and you share about it. That's what everyone should actually do.
Yeah, that's really nice. And speaking of Vishoy, we actually have a podcast coming up with him on Pieces Open Source. So stay tuned for that on the Coding in Context podcast. I'm super excited about that. And we'll have a third episode coming out next week, but then our open source episode will come out, I believe, the first or second week of September. So that'll be a really great episode.
But yeah, I would highly recommend to make sure that you do check out the CLI agent, and of course, some of you want to probably give like a last 1 minute summary of what major changes that you implemented that people can test out.
Yeah, sure. So I've been basically working around with the open command and the list command, because like basically we have assets in pieces, and we are basically, I started up with some basic tests and stuff, and eventually I moved to the way we work and we open with assets. Earlier, the way we used to open assets was we used to provide the index for the assets, but that was not very intuitive. Instead, Bishoy recommended that it would be better if we had a menu and inside the CLI itself, so that the person could just pick the project, instead of they'll have to find the index, then they'll have to feed in the index and open it through the index. So that's why we first implemented the menu itself, and eventually we implemented syntax highlighting within the terminal also. So now if you're trying to open, or if you're trying to see the code inside the terminal, it opens with the syntax highlighting. Moreover, you're also able to open the assets from pieces directly with the CLI into an editor of your choice. So you don't. So that's another feature that's added. So basically, I've been working around with the operations on the list command and the open command, and the way you interact with assets and the way you open assets. And yeah, that's what I've been trying to do for the past version update.
Really nice. I saw you're also on the docs too. So
Yeah, we were working around the docs about an hour ago, and it's really fun.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Perfect. But yeah, thank you so much, Sambhav. Really appreciate you coming here and sharing about your journey. I think we'll definitely make probably a shorter clip and reuse this just to get the word out and encourage more folks as well. I know like Richard has also been really proactive. I mean, he literally met us like probably 1 week back, and he has already opened up 4 to 5 pull requests on our doc. So a huge shout out to Richard as well.
Absolutely. Yep. And I've merged a couple of those in, so he's official now.
Yep.
Just want to jump on one of the comments in the chat. We get asked often how to get a job at Pieces. So yeah, be active and commit quality code, and you might have a chance. I mean, this is kind of good advice for anyone looking for any role, really. Again, it comes down to when you apply for a job, you are competing against other people. So how do you put yourself ahead? How do you have that portfolio? And if you can show open source contributions, that's another thing you can do to boost your portfolio. Yes, there's this ridiculous gatekeeping on social media that your GitHub has to be a solid green wall, and no, it's not like that at all. It's if you can make quality contributions, so people can see what you've done, they can see the kind of code that you're creating, they can see how you're interacting in public, how you are collaborating, then it's great to boost your absolutely great way to kind of boost your employability and boost your career.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And since I will also want to ensure that we don't take up too much time of other folks, I think like the other contribution that we want to also highlight is from Vishal. Vishal has been part of our community as well for a long time, and he has been making quite a few contributions to our example TypeScript project. Probably Vishal, if you want to touch upon what you have been up to in probably like a minute or two, and also like give a quick introduction about yourself.
Sure. Thank you very much. And let me know if I'm audible, because I'm traveling right now.
It's good. It's good enough. Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. So myself, Vishal Pawar. I'm a full stack developer from India. Actually, my background is in materials and mechanical engineering. I'm background of a hardware robotics engineer, but since 2 years I am in the software engineering part. So in the my company, I developed a server side code generator that inspired me to look into the research for how I can enhance the code generation part with using the AI, and that it led to me to the pieces developers, and that's why I get into the open source for the example TypeScripts. And with the quick introduction, I will just share the screen and share what I have contributed to.
Cool.
And I think like this, for those folks who are not aware of this, so the example TS project was actually our first ever kind of open source project that we kind of spun up as when we open sourced our first ever SDK, which was basically the TypeScript SDK. So it's really a playground for you to interact with all of the different, not just the Copilot APIs, but also the assets APIs, right? So it's a great way to showcase that what you're capable to build. Vishal, we are able to see your screen now, so you can start sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I'm really interested in Rack part to make good enhancements in the Rack part to interact with our code base for any code base. So that's why I'm learning this SDK with the example TypeScript. So these are like few of the contributions. I started with the response of the formatting.
I'm not sure, Vishal, if you're sharing the right window. Perhaps you might want to.
Okay.
You're sharing the StreamYard link.
Yeah, surely.
No worries.
Yeah.
1 second.
One of the major, I think, as Mason also pointed out, was that, of course, SDKs themselves are not the only thing, right? We want to improve the developer experience through showing how to use better examples as well. So one of the community projects that I would like to probably open up the stage for everyone is that we want to build a playground where people can actively learn what the SDK endpoints actually do. So I had a discussion about this with Vishal as well. And that's one of the things that we are looking forward to also build, where people can interact with the different endpoints and understand that how each and every endpoint works.
Cool.
Yeah, but I think Vishal, you probably again, now we're able to see perfect. So yeah, you can touch upon it.
Yeah, it is. So this is the conversation box. So first it was like giving the response as only plain text, and now it can respond as a like proper whatever we have the syntax part as code. So it responds as like this. This was the first contribution from my side. Second was I'm actually working on the Linux system, so there is no configuration part for it. So in the Linux, we need port of like 5323, and in the Windows and MacBook it is 1000. So it was very hard to me to configure. So that's why I added this configuration file. Next is implementation of the login and logout part. Here we can see whenever the user is logged in, we can see its metadata, and we can log out also. And if we log out, we can log in as well. Next was the upgraded the methods for Copilot using PCS Copilot SDK. As Mason earlier mentioned, to enhance the developer experience, to contribute, uh, they have uploaded the PCS Copilot SDK, and I have upgraded the existing methods with using the PCS Copilot SDK. And this is the last contribution is the added snippet view. Currently, I'm not able to view my snippets, and I will not be able to like display that feature currently. So
Yeah.
that's all from my side. Thank you.
Perfect. Yeah. Again, Vishal, like this is what it kind of inspires folks, that again, very meticulous kind of implementation, good code quality. And I think since we have been having a lot of proactive discussion, I think even Richard mentioned that he would be interested in seeing a pieces playground. So, all of the community who work, I know like Richard works with React as well. So all of us can potentially collaborate after the stream and kind of touch upon how we can build this community driven playground where people can understand how to use the pieces endpoints, because that's something like we discussed internally. But if the developer community is interested in building that, that will be the perfect thing. But again, huge thanks to Vishal and Sambhav for coming up here and talking through about the kind of contributions that you have been building. We really appreciate it, of course, and we look forward to continuously seeing all of you getting involved and building, because it's, of course, I mean, it's great for not only the ecosystem itself, but of course for you folks as personally, as Jim mentioned, that whether you are applying for a new role or looking out for opportunities, these contributions never, they're always going to be there with you.
I think there's a comment here. I work for a startup now too. We're actively looking on open source projects for talent and hire them.
Absolutely.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. I just saw one comment in the chat that's interesting. There was a question about whether the CLI was written in Go, because Go is very popular for CLIs.
That's right.
And this suggestion came up of why don't someone create one? So maybe what someone could do is maybe use, I don't know, some kind of AI assistant to maybe take our existing Python CLI and get the code translated into Go and see what happens.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
just putting it out there, maybe a tool like Pieces could help you translate the code.
Yeah. And when you went into Go, then you can really dive into infrastructure as code. So possibilities are endless. You could technically use Pieces to write your Terraform files and do, I literally at one of the conferences, there was a company that got $5 million funding, which is called as ChatGPT for DevOps. I'll not name the company, but the idea is really that they're using AI for being able to do debugging for DevOps. I actively used it for my Kubernetes workshop. And everyone, was so mind blown that everyone is coming to our booth and saying that this is a great use case. Like, so for DevOps especially, I think because I have seen that happen to me. I've seen so many of the other folks who work on DevOps. I see Udbay is also there on the live. He does a lot of DevOps as well. So, it can be very tricky, like especially when you're dealing with large config files, large YAMLs. Having a Copilot tool to assist you is a godsend.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I'll probably for the last segment, Mason, I'll quickly share just two quick updates. I know because we are over time, and I want to ensure that I want to be respectful for everyone's time. So one additional thing that I'll quickly also touch upon, I'll share my screen. Let me go ahead and do this. So as we were mentioning, that one of our community folks, David, I think it's David only, and another folk, they created this VS Code extension, which is actually inspired. I'm not sure if it's inspired, but in our CLI agent, we have this really nice command which will look at your Git diff So based on your current code changes that have been in the staging right now for Git, you'll be able to actually build or create a really nice commit message. So if once you have put or pushed your changes to stage environment, you want to you might be thinking, okay, what should be a good commit message? You can actually use that. And similarly, this commit AI feature from David is built using the TypeScript SDK. Again, it is open source, and they have built it using the TypeScript SDK. And this will also now basically add a small icon inside of your VS Code, and it will help you to auto-generate a Git commit message based on the changes that are there in your Git diff. And I think I can quickly show a quick demo of this as well. I tested it out and works fairly well. Let me go ahead and share my entire screen. I think it should be here. So for example, let's say that, I have, this is the UI. So if I click on this, I think first I'll have to go and add these to the staging environment. But the idea is that when you click on this, you first have to, of course, commit your changes, and then you should be able to, like, you'll be able to see like a commit message getting generated over here. Right now, I think like is throwing some sort of an error, but the idea is that it will basically do that. So it will show up a commit message right over here.
Yeah, I think you can use the command as well. And I do see David's in here. So hey, David. But yeah, no, it's a really good implementation of a small kind of project of how you can use pieces to build out these really interesting features and even extend applications like VS Code, build your own extension. And we're always open to kind of having these community ran projects and potentially having collaborations and partnerships there. So.
Yep. And I think one final thing that I wanted to also share again, probably will not take more than a minute or two, is this demo that I built, which essentially uses, as we were discussing about vector databases, this is actually right now using LangChain to create a RAG chain. So if for those folks who are not aware, LangChain is a very popular machine learning or Gen AI specific library, one of the most popular ones, I would say. You typically use it for Python and with TypeScript. So this particular one is actually connected to one of the community vector stores. So of course, with LangChain, you can connect it with any LLM of your choice, any vector store of your choice. So I'm using a vector store right now. In fact, like, we are planning a collaboration with AstraDB, so I'm proactively also working on getting one vector store with AstraDB. But the idea over here is that as soon as I choose a PDF file, so for example, right now, one of the things that's not possible with pieces when you're adding files and folders as context is that you cannot add a PDF or, like, let's say a IPython notebook file. But here now I can actually choose and add a PDF. So let's say that I will choose one of these PDF files. So this is actually, I got like my at one of these conferences recently, I got my hair checked up using AI. I absolutely love the concept. It looked at my scalp and mentioned that I have a few problems. I'll not go too deep into that because that's more private. But as soon as I upload this, as you see that the PDF basically gets loaded into a vector store, and it generates like 5 different documents. So I mean, we are just, as Mason mentioned, that you basically chunk your entire file into different segments, and then you store them inside the vector store. And now what I've essentially done and implemented is that I have basically added some of the community created LLMs that are directly supported inside of LangChain. So I have OpenAI Grok. We are internally discussing if we can add their LLMs because Grok just recently got a Series D. They are one of the fastest LLM inferencing platforms. So you can leverage their Llama 3.1 models as well. So let's say that if I just right now choose OpenAI, I can actually then ask a question based on this PDF. So I can ask it a question, summarize the hair density, probably or give the value of hair density. I'm doing this live. I'm not sure if this might work or not. Okay, so this one didn't really work that well with OpenAI. hopefully, I guess like we might want to give it a more specific question, like hair density mentioned in the PDF, I guess. That should probably work. Sometimes like you have to be very careful with respect to the prompt. Okay, this didn't work very well, but probably I can ask Pieces OS and let's see if that actually works. So I can basically ask it the same question, and hopefully we are able to get this working. So now it's actually okay. That clearly didn't work. Let me perhaps just
Curse the
these
demo
are
gods.
yeah. I have another one. So I had like my retrospective on all things open. Like I visited the conference back in 2022. So I can probably ask it a question. Who was the competitor? I hope this works this time. So yeah, perfect. So I think like there must have been something wrong with that previous PDF that I uploaded, but in this like retrospective document I had added about the competitor. So here basically what you're seeing is that you're getting one response that has been generated by basically adding RAG. So this is a retrieval augment generation example where if you see that the second response is a pure LLM response, and the first response is the response that the LLM is basically given a RAG implementation. So here, once you basically ask it a question, first we use vector search or vector database to give you a context related to the question that you've asked, and then you basically pass that relevant context with the prompt to the LLM so that your LLM can give you a better response. So the first response that you see with the pieces logo is the RAG implementation of vector database plus the prompt that you give to the LLM, and the second response is just the pure LLM. And you can see very clearly that how poorly the LLM performs just with the pure LLM, but how you can very easily augment the responses of the LLM with the help of the vector database. And that's internally that what we are doing as well. And so that is why like what you see is that all of the existing LLMs are currently supported in LangChain. So I'm in talks with the community at LangChain to also potentially add Pieces OS. So I'm proactively working on getting that extension in like first building that, and then hopefully in the next few weeks we should have a LangChain community contribution for Pieces inside LangChain, because it's a great product, and this unlocks the door. And here you can see like I was kind of also doing like a querying result of how OpenAI does versus all of the others. So like this way you can see that how much time each one of these particular LLM basically takes time to generate the response. So a lot of cool things you can do with sorry.
Yeah, Shvay, this is kind of specific, but what LLM is Pieces using here?
So this one, I'm just using the default one. So the default one, I think, is GPT 3.5. Of course, with, so for example, with Olama, here I have like what LLM model you want to choose. So similarly with Pieces also, you can implement another endpoint. So right now, I was using your Pieces Copilot SDK for this. So I could not add a model ID because it didn't. So
we'll get that in. We'll get that in.
Yeah. Once you get that in, what you will see is that similar to Olama, what you will do is that once you have selected Pieces OS as your LLM of choice, I'll also give you a side panel of choosing what LLM you want to use within Pieces, and then you can add that and use that as well.
Sweet.
So that is a quick, I built this in less than one day, and we'll have one this kind of a content piece around how you use AstraDB. And this is not open source, by the way. I will open source this because I'm using private API key for OpenAI, for Gemini, for Grok. I haven't made this open source yet, but I'll make it very soon.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, that's super cool, Jve. And that's just another example of how we can kind of interact and build really, really interesting tools with other really interesting tools. Seems like some people we're not big fans of light mode there, so we'll see if we can get dark mode on the LangChain.
Oh, Streamlit basically. So within Streamlit, you can choose the UI theme very easily within your app.
Cool, awesome. And then also it came up. Nope, sorry. One more thing. This one. Yes, you can absolutely drag and drop any screenshot of code right into Pieces desktop app. And if you're on the kind of the saved materials view, and we'll process that and abstract the code and do all the snippet automation that we do on a regular snippet, but you can do it straight from a screenshot. Just another
Great
thing.
if you're in the classroom, take a photograph of some code up on the board, drag and drop, done.
Absolutely. Well, I think this is great. Jim, you have one last thing, and then we can wrap this up just on the open source boot camps, the workshops that you've been going on.
Yeah, I want to share this with everyone. So I think we all know that open source is a great way to. There we go. Let's go. We shared. Come on, there we go. We all know that open source is a absolutely fantastic way to boost your career. It's a great way to make contributions in public, build up that portfolio, and just be, a lot more employable. So I put together this bootcamp with a friend of mine a while ago, and I've run this as some in-person events. And the idea behind this bootcamp is we've put everything in a box for you to run a 2-day event to teach folks the basics of Git, GitHub, and open source. So we start really with the basics of what is Git, what is a commit, what is a repo, fundamental concepts like that. And then we move on to teaching folks how to collaborate on code together. It's designed to be run with teams of people. So one person acts as a maintainer, and then the rest of the team acts as contributors. And you learn how you use pull requests, how you deal with merge conflicts, how you use issues, and just get together and collaborate on code. Really fantastic event to run. We like to run it with talks from people who are involved in open source. We often have folks giving their open source origin story, for example. So if anyone's heard of AppWrite, I know Richard in the chat has been interning at AppWrite. Their head of developer relations, Tessa Mero, gave a great talk about how she got her career thanks to open source contributions. So just putting this out there, I've dropped a link in the chat. If anyone's interested in running an event to help upskill folks in their community in open source, here it is in a box with everything you need to know to do this. So check it out. If you want to run this event, you want some help, get in touch. I'd love to help you make this a success. Some of the folks at GitHub are using this with campus experts, folks like that. So if you want to learn open source, please check this out. We've put a lot of effort into this. It's been very successful every time we've run it. So just would love for you to run this with your communities.
Nice. I'm sure I could. It's always good to go back to the basics every now and then too. So I'm sure even if you've been using Git for a while, it's always good to get a refresher on the best ways on the fundamentals.
Yeah. So Rich, you're coming about. I wish I was able to see Tessa's talk. Yeah, unfortunately we didn't film that. But if I zoom in, there she is there. She used to live in Seattle. So we ran this event in person in Redmond, which is just outside of Seattle. So she was there in person. And Wan Pa, who used to run the GitHub Campus Experts programs, any campus experts on this meetup may recognize him hiding away there. So absolutely fantastic event. Awesome.
Well, thanks for that. I think we're going to wrap this up here. We're a little over time, so sorry about that, but there's just a lot going on right now. So always want to keep you guys up to date. And of course, we host this every month. We try and do it the first Saturday of every month, but sometimes it goes back to the second Saturday. So either the first or second Saturday of every month. And you can just stay up to date on when the next one is. We'll have an event created in our Discord server for the date, and then we usually announce it as well. So any last thoughts today, Jim?
No, I just wanted to say that this has been our longest meetup yet. And I think even after 1 hour, 18 minutes, we still have the most record number of active folks who are viewing this. So I think that this was great testament to see that how we are growing as a company, as a community, as an open source community as well. So, huge shout outs to everyone in the chat as well. And I know that Jim, probably you brought this up that, of course, these meetups are once every month, but as we have more number of folks actively using pieces, we might start to look into some weekly, if not weekly, but I guess quarter nightly office hours, perhaps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So we're looking to start start potentially doing that, running those every couple of weeks and at different times to line up to give folks from different time zones opportunities. So stay tuned. We'll have announced these on our socials and on our Discord server, but this will be a chance to show off some new features and pieces and literally be there to answer your questions. Already got someone who's had a few interesting experiences onboarding who said, oh, I'd love to jump on a stream with you and talk through them. So yeah, keep an eye on our socials. We'll announce these when we're ready.
Yeah. And then, just to, because Richard asked like Apprite officers, because we take a lot of inspiration from what Apprite does, whether it's with docs, whether it's with their SDKs. I think like they are a really good inspiration for having good developer community and developer experience. So yeah, I mean, we are learning in public as a company from Apprite as well. So yeah.
That's exactly right. All right. Well, thank you, Shvez. Thank you, Jem. Special thanks to Sambhav and Vishal for coming up here and showing us, their contributions, what they've been working on, and how they're, contributing to pieces. But love everybody for being here. Thank you for sticking around through the very end here, and we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Enjoy the weekend.